think most of us, when we're young, have this sort of dream about being older and to be someone extremely capable, or to sort of magically become some sort of heroic figure. That's what Richard Corben explores in his masterpiece, Den. My name is Virgil, and this is Literally Books. And Den by Richard Corben explores the idea of a young man who gets transported to another world. He falls into this body that is heaped with muscle. He's naked, doesn't really have any memory of who he really was or any knowledge of the place that he's in. It's something out of a John Carter of Mars story or Conan. And it has touches of Lovecraftian horrors. As he tries to survive and figure out what's going on in this world, he sees a young woman in distress and saves her, Kath. She too has been transported from Earth in another time to this body and is also rather healthy compared to her former self. And these two characters, on and off again, explore Den's world of Neverwhere. It's a world of color-drenched landscapes, truncated pyramids, mutants, strange magic and rituals, monsters, and seductive women. And Den keeps getting pulled into these adventures. What I really enjoy about Den, a characteristic about Den the character, is that he's not a super competent character. He often loses fights or sort of only is able to hold his own. And I appreciated that because it's, even though he has this form of this extremely capable person, he doesn't necessarily mean that he's always going to be super capable. And I think I really enjoy that part. But he will still throw himself into the action, still do these sort of heroic things, right? It makes for a very fun reading. In fact, the entire book is just a complete joy to read. It's just cover to cover amazing. However, we may need to say something pretty important in case you don't know. It is very difficult to show images of this book because there is nudity on every single page, at least almost every single page. Occasionally you'll get a page that's mostly landscapes and there won't be much there. But apart from that, yeah, nudity is everywhere. Everywhere. Den never wears any clothes except for later when he picks up a cloak, and I guess it covers his shoulders sometimes. But that's about it. Okay? He's the main character, so yes, he's completely naked the entire time. Kath, who he rescues, is also naked most of the time. If you're thinking that this book is going to be leaning very heavily on female nudity, it does, but not as hard as it leans on male nudity because there's many more male characters. So if that's going to be an issue for you, you probably should know that I think that this book, and even Corben himself, never thought of this book as being, inappropriate. We'll say that. He said it was sensual, and I think that that's probably the best way to look at it. The way the color and the landscapes work, the portrayals of the characters are more of a sensual nature. They're not deliberately and overtly sexual. In fact, there's very little sex in the book. There's really not very much. And a lot of the nudity is often unflattering. Something else to know is that Corben a lot of times would make clay sculptures of his characters and draw from those sculptures. You can feel the weight of these characters. They feel heavy. They feel dense. They have a real presence on the page. They're not smooth, straight lines. They're all curves. All curves. A very warm-hearted or big-hearted feel about Den. You would maybe think that he would be very macho and push people around and sort of try and take charge, and he really doesn't. He doesn't do that. He's masculine, but not macho. Another thing that I enjoy about the character is that it's not him sort of taking over or him sort of like flexing and overpowering everybody. He's a very relaxed and sort of comfortable character about himself. He exudes a sense of powerfulness, but he doesn't really ever try to take power. It's really more of a like falling into an adventure or happenstance. I think it'd be easy to label Den as a guilty pleasure because of all the nudity and everything else, and it seems very vapid maybe to somebody, and it's just an opportunity to showcase naked women. I don't feel that way at all. Like I said, I don't feel that the women are overtly sexualized any more than Den is sexualized. It is a very sensual adventure, and I am in no way ashamed of adoring Corben's work and this series especially. I first encountered it in that 1981 movie Heavy Metal. Den was originally published in the pages of Heavy Metal. I think actually in Metal Hurlant, which was the French version of Heavy Metal, and then later in the American version, Heavy Metal. The story was published in that, and it was one of the short pieces of fiction or pieces of animation from the 1981 Heavy Metal movie, Den of Earth, voiced by John Candy, and it's absolutely hilarious and wonderful to watch. It's a very funny take on Den.
Well, aren't we fierce? Guards, castrate him.
Boy, I was pretty good at this stuff.
Not 100% accurate to the Den of the comic. The Den in the movie is much sillier, much more comedic, although there is a sense of comedy in Den. Comedy in the scenarios that sometimes happen, and then comedy too, and honestly sometimes in the nudity, because like I said, there's a lot of times where it's unflattering pictures or poses, and it's kind of like you kind of chuckle. You think, okay, that's funny. Just like it just seems very funny to see him laying face down, naked, peering over this ridge or something. It seems very humorous, and I think that's part of the fun of it. Is you're supposed to laugh, you're supposed to enjoy it. It really seems like an appreciation for the human form than it does trying to be salacious. And then I'm maybe putting a little too much focus on that nudity, because honestly, the adventure is wonderful. So good. You wouldn't think that something like this would have really great writing, and I'm not saying that the writing is amazing, but the writing is just right. It doesn't try to become especially wordy or trying to do too much. It's very easy, it seems like, with stuff like this, especially nowadays when I read pulpy type adventures like this, where it's just like they seem to miss the note. The characters are saying too much, they're trying to be too extreme, and there's never a feel with them that he's trying to be extreme. He's just sort of reacting to these events, and it's a very traditional heroic sort of take, almost mythic or something in a sense, right? It doesn't feel as though Den needs to pose or needs to beat his chest or anything like that. All these things make the character of Den and the comic so endearing. The art is just amazing. The color is so gorgeous in this book. Every page is just a feast of color. Amazing, weird creatures and monsters that Den encounters, sometimes humorous, sometimes not. And that's really characteristic of Corben's stuff anyways. There's always a sense of somewhat the characters looking a little cartoonish, a little silly, but never too cartoonish. Just right. It looked very realistic, and then maybe just a touch cartoony. I think it just works perfectly. Like I said, Den was originally published in Heavy Metal, and Corben really worked as an independent comic artist for a long time. And I discovered him from the movie Heavy Metal, and this work has been out of print for a very long time. You could maybe get like pieces of it here and there, scans of it or something, but for the first time they've come back and they've redone it, and it's just amazing. They did such great work. I think it's, I want to say a big part of it. I need to say this because he did a lot of work on this. Jose Villaruba? Jose, I hope I got your name right. I'm going to put it up on the screen. Worked to get it recolored and to repair and all the artwork and make sure everything looked good. I don't know how much repair work had to be done, but just to get everything fixed. With these reprints, the colors, especially if you look at like reprints of older comics, this is not exactly the same scenario, but you can see how garish the colors look. That's because those colors were intended to be printed on newsprint. So the newsprint would mute everything. That's why his reprints seem like really stark, and this doesn't. It looks kind of ugly. And here, Jose has done an amazing job of making sure that that art is top notch represented. I mean, you could take probably a panel from any one of the pages in this book and frame it, and it would probably make anyone who walks past it stop and say, "Whoa, what's that?" It's just such amazing work. Corben's art is just so wonderful to look at, and I just love the sort of warm-heartedness of this story, which seems a little strange to say about a guy walking around naked in the desert fighting mutants and saving naked women, but it really does feel that way, and I just have such a great love for this, and it's so great to see it reprinted. This is the first of multiple volumes. Actually, I don't know how many volumes there's going to be. I know that there's this one out, and that there's 4 more pre-orderable. So I've pre-ordered all of them. I did this one. This one came out, I think, last year or something like that. It's not been out real long. I actually, the second volume, I don't know when this will come out, is coming out at the very end of July in 2024. So, but it was supposed to come out like 2 or 3 months ago. And it did. I got it. It's right here. I got this from Amazon. Apparently, it's a misprint. I am not 100% certain, but from what I understand, it's just some very, very minor text differences. If you're one of the people who has two and are kind of like, what do you mean it's not in, you can't get it? It's not printed yet. For the differences, just so you know, in case you're thinking that something you need to run out and try and collect, from my understanding is that super minor text differences, just sort of like the way the text is presented, or just like the way a phrase or two is presented. I don't even think it's really that anything to really even note. I think that you would probably have to hunt it down and spend time comparing them to locate it. But apparently they were pulled, but my pre-order was sent before it got pulled. So I have it, and I reordered the next one. So I guess I was like, well, I kind of want it. I don't know. I guess I'll go ahead and do it again. I mean, that's fine. I'll support the effort anyways, because I think it's a really great work that's happening, and just can't recommend Den enough. It's just one of those things. I know we talk about books, and I think that this qualifies as a great book. This is an amazing book. This is something also by someone who struggled to be independent his entire career. Corben did some work with Mike Mignola on Hellboy. Actually, his Hellboy stuff, the art that he did for that is one of my favorite Hellboy stories. One of the ones I really enjoyed. And anytime I see Corben art, I just stop and I'm like, I want to see this. Just a great adventure, very pulpy. Everything that you think it might be, it is. And if you've ever seen that 81 animated part with Den of Earth, everything that is, this book is, and more so, and even more so. And what's nice is that it doesn't try to play too much on the comedy, which works in a shorter section, but I don't know how well that would hold up long term. But it still has a comedic element here and there. I mean, I honestly just want to say, just to sort of raise awareness about it, because I don't know how well it's selling, but like if you enjoy graphic art, then I got to tell you that this is the thing to go out and get. We want to support the effort. We want there to be more of Corben's art to be brought back out and put out so we can find it and purchase it a lot easier. And the effort in here is such high quality. I just can't talk enough about what amazing work has been done. And of course, I should have put a bunch of images up here so you can get a representation. Like I said, not altogether easy. I'm saying this before I even do it, because I haven't picked those images yet, but not altogether easy because there's nudity everywhere. So I'm going to have to do some creative structuring or something. The extra effort for me is worth it. Go out and find a copy of Corben's Den. You can get it the issue 1, which I think is just called Neverwhere. Actually, it just says Den. I think it's Den : Neverwhere or something, Volume 1 or something like that. Originally, Den was an animated short film that Corben produced himself, and then later he took that and made it into comic form and put it in the pages of Heavy Metal. Thanks very much. My name is Virgil. This is Literally Books. Like, subscribe. Those things are great. Share, I guess. You could share it too. Sure. Definitely do it. I'm supposed to say positive. I'm supposed to say, yeah, do it. Thanks a lot. that's all I have to say. Just talking about this is just a lot of fun and exciting. So let me know if you've read anything of Corben. If you like Corben, if you've ever experienced it, if you're thinking about it, you need me to help you persuade you, I'll just say do it. I don't know. I'll try and persuade you. Anyhow, thanks very much. Bye.